Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for Five Nights at Freddy's, the latest movie from Universal and Blumhouse, based off the popular video game series of the same name. The movie follows a security guard played by Josh Hutcherson, who ends up taking a job as a security guard for an abandoned pizzeria called Freddy Fazbear's. He does this more out of desperation because he's trying to look after his younger sister. So he's working the night shift, but he soon finds out that he has to do more than keep people from coming inside Freddy Fazbear's, because the animatronics, as the game refers to them as, can be quirky and can come to life. And he has to basically survive working Five Nights at Freddy's. I have not played any of the Five Nights at Freddy's video games, not even the original one, but when that original game came out, I think 2014, it was a big phenomenon. It became a big hit on YouTube where you'd watch playthroughs and people getting scared. It was a lot of fun to watch those types of videos. It reminded me very much of when Slender the 8 Pages came out, and you would just watch people get scared playing the game. It was easier for me to get into the Slender Man because I was in college and I was friends with a bunch of people who liked playing horror games. And it was just a fun experience to gather all of us in one room and watch people get scared over the tiniest things. That didn't happen to me with Five Nights at Freddy's because by that time I had graduated college and I wasn't friends with anybody who played horror games as much as the people in college, so I just never got into it. With the trailers for this movie though, it looked like it could be really cool because it's got the same concept as the game. The animatronics that they use for the movie look just like the characters from the games. Plus, considering that we've had a pretty good run of video game movies and shows like Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Super Mario Bros., and Last of Us, Five Nights at Freddy's had a good chance of being a pretty good movie as well. But no, I think we just need to accept the fact that whenever Universal releases a movie in theaters and Peacock at the same time, you know to always avoid it at all costs, whether it be Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, Firestarter, or this movie. It seems like Peacock has just become a dumping ground for Universal to release horror movies that they don't have that much faith in. And oh boy, did they dump this movie, because I thought The Exorcist Believer was bad. This is just as bad, if not slightly worse than that movie. I gave you a plot description that mostly followed the video game, more or less. There are things that happen in this movie that aren't featured in the trailer, and a lot of it is focused more on Josh Hutcherson's character and his tragic background. Without going into spoilers, you have to wonder to yourself, how are these two even connected? Very vaguely, I will say. They force a reason for the animatronics at Five Nights at Freddy's to be linked to Josh Hutcherson's past. And that's ultimately the biggest flaw of the movie. The script is just total nonsense, and they just cram in as many plot details as possible that don't even get resolved. There's a big thing that involves Josh Hutcherson and his younger sister, who, based on the trailers, I thought was his daughter. That goes nowhere. Like, it's brought up, it's hinted at, and then it's never taken care of at the end of the day. It is just lazy all around. And then the characters themselves are quite terrible. Josh Hutcherson's character is completely unlikable. He's unhinged, and he's just not a guy that I would ever want to root for. And Josh Hutcherson himself is terrible in this film. He gives a really bad performance, and we know he can be good, but not in this movie. You have Elizabeth Lail in this movie, who plays an officer who's had a history with Freddy Fazbear's, and I recognize this actress from Countdown, which was another terrible horror movie, and her character is mostly here just to deliver exposition to Josh Hutcherson, as well as the audience. And even then, the way the script is written, she gives exposition in the most vague ways possible, to where you're just like, just tell us everything. And also Matthew Lillard is in this movie. He's not in it for very long, but he supposedly plays a very important character, and I just found him to be a complete waste. So for those of you thinking, oh, Matthew Lillard, maybe he'll be like Stu Macher in Scream. No, you don't get a Stu performance from Matthew Lillard in this movie. He is just there and is barely used at all. If I had any positives about the movie, and this is probably me scraping the bottom of the barrel, I do like the animatronic work on all these characters. I'm not a big fan of the designs themselves, which I know they're from the video game, and in the context of the games, it works because they're just straight up horror games. With this movie here, with a little more background, you have to ask yourself, how was this pizzeria ever a hit with these horrendous looking animatronics? And I'm not talking about like they're terrible looking, I'm talking about that these are frightening animatronics. Why would kids at all be enchanted by these things or think of them as anything but creepy? But yeah, putting all that aside, the puppetry on the animatronics was really good, and I recognize one of my colleagues from work was credited as a puppeteer for Bonnie, and I thought, oh, that's cool, but at the end of the day, it's just not enough to save this movie. It is just total nonsense. It's boring, it's lackluster, it fails to be scary in the slightest, and the story is so nonsensical and just all over the place that it almost made me mad. I was almost tempted to tell this movie to go burn in hell, but I think because of the way I saw this movie, I will be nice and say, don't waste your money on it. This movie honestly reminds me of the Slender Man movie from 5 years ago, where it was based off a hit video game that became a YouTube sensation. But when it came to the movie, I thought, does anybody really care at this point? And with the Slender Man movie, apparently nobody cared. But with this, considering how much it's projected to make, I think people do care. So I mean, for me, that's unfortunate. I've heard some people say, oh, this will give the fans everything that they want, and it's also a good gateway horror movie for kids. Bullshit! I am not familiar with the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's. I can only review this as a movie, as I said earlier, and I just don't understand what any fan would see based on this. Y'all deserve better than this, because this is awful. This is truly terrible, and I would never want to subject any younger audience members to this as a gateway film for horror. Like, Killer Clowns from Outer Space and Drag Me to Hell are better gateway horror movies than this. I don't know, because I saw this on Peacock rather than going to a theater, that's why I'm not ranking this movie as low as I should, but really, this is one of the worst movies I've seen this year, and it might flip back and forth between Meg 2 and this in terms of what's the actual worst movie of the year. And there you go, that's my review for Five Nights at Freddy's. I hope you enjoyed it, and now I want to know what you guys think about the movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day, and take care of yourselves.